the time. She got a booty like a Cadillac. Oh, I could send her in an overdrive.
This is The Jam. I am Eric McCain. We're talking about interesting stories that are going on this week around the world. Things that I think are interesting that we can kind of delve into and analyze a little bit and see if you can find something in it that you find interesting. Now, there was an interesting story that happened this week, but first of all, it reminds me of a time, I was watching a beach volleyball game in the London Olympics. This was years ago. And I was a beach volleyball coach for many years, so I love watching it. I love watching the Olympics. And in the game, Australia was playing Austria, the Aus versus the Aus. And Australia was looking great. It was a 3-set match, and they won the first set, and they were cruising to a victory in the second. The place was packed with people, and the Australians were blowing kisses and waving at the fans and throwing up big serves, and everything was going great. The Aussies were celebrating and running around the court after every point. Then, all of a sudden, the Austrians went up a point, then another point. It was still going well for the Australians because they were way ahead, but then the Austrians got another point, and then another point. And before you knew it, it was a tie game. The Austrians went on to win that game, and then later won the match. And I remember it because the next day, I saw my Austrian friend, and the first thing out of his mouth was, na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye. And I remember that I was thinking to myself, man, those Australians must really be kicking themselves. In a session of the U.S. Congress this week, something kind of funny and weird happened. The Democratic side began singing a song. Na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye. That's because the Republicans finally passed the Trump healthcare bill. This was the bill that Trump tried to pass a couple of months back, and he couldn't get his own people to back it. Then they made some changes, and it failed again. The problem was that it was just bad for so many people. Even the Republicans that wanted to pass it said it was so disturbingly bad for so many that it would probably be the end of their careers if they voted for it. Then this week, with a new bill, Trump himself went around to the different Republicans and did some of what they are calling arm twisting. You better vote for this thing or else. So this week, the bill passed by a single vote. And the bill to repeal and replace Obamacare was voted in. The reason the Democrats were singing that song is because they believe that by signing the TrumpCare bill, the Republicans have basically committed political suicide. Now, usually these kind of major bills like this, they'll be analyzed and studied and broken down. But this one pushed through with most of the Congress saying they never even really got a chance to read it. However, many others now have read it. And in a nutshell, it's expensive. Well, for certain people. The more you need it, or the sicker or older you are, the more it's going to cost you. But it's great if you're young and healthy or rich or you work for a well-to-do company that provides insurance. I have been watching this story develop in the Philippine newspaper. They've been putting it almost on the front page a lot this week. And, it's been going on television. And the one thing that they keep showing on television is, after the vote, Trump invited all the Republicans over to the White House lawn for supposedly a beer party. Although there's a debate on whether there was beer or not. But the media was all invited, and they were there showing all the stuff. It was a grand celebration, many old white men shaking hands and patting each other on the back and celebrating their grand victory. And of course, there were speeches to be made, but an interesting thing, in many of the speeches, they didn't really mention anything about lowering costs or pre-existing conditions, which is one of the big promises that Trump made, except of course Trump's speech, who claimed that Obamacare was a catastrophe and this new plan would bring down costs and get all Americans much better health care. This was the first time that anyone could remember that a president had a celebration party after getting a bill passed in Congress, especially a bill that so many Americans seem to be so much against. Poll numbers for this bill had it around 17% approval rating. And also the fact that the bill was not even law yet. It still has a very, very long way to go before the president could ever sign it into law. First, it must go to the Senate, in which many have already said it will never pass. Even some Republicans have alluded that they went ahead and voted for this bill because they know that it will never get passed and the Senate will never vote for it. This seems to be a lot like claiming you won the big game and raising up the coach in the air, but it's really just halftime. Celebrating too early can be dangerous. Many have asked, who called for this big celebration, this big party? They wouldn't say who it was, but I think obviously it was Donald Trump. You know, the main issue with this bill is that it is estimated that this plan will throw 24 million Americans off their health insurance. Currently, under Obamacare, every American must have health insurance. And what you pay is based on how much income you have. If you can't afford it, there's subsidies and tax breaks that'll help you pay. No one can be denied access to health insurance under his plan, and every American must be insured. Now, under the new TrumpCare plan, if you can afford health insurance, then you can get it. But if you can't, well, sorry. So let's take a look and see what it is that you get with TrumpCare. Now, if you're older or you have less money, your premiums will go up because the tax breaks for health insurance are now based on age, not income. They estimate if that you are over 65, your insurance will be 5 times the cost of the same insurance of a younger person. Also, the insurance tax on people that are making more than $200,000 would be eliminated, which is great if you make $200,000 annually. Now, if you can't afford health insurance or you just don't want it, now you don't have to have it. But this in itself is a tricky dilemma. So what are you going to do with all these people who now don't have health insurance? It cuts prenatal care, Planned Parenthood, so it's a little tough for mothers. Also, ambulance services. Why would you cut ambulance services? I'm not sure why they did this. I mean, are you supposed to drive yourself to the hospital or Uber it? Large employers no longer have to give you health insurance. So that's a big plus, you know, if you own a big company. Medicaid is being cut. Medicaid, for those of us here in the Philippines that might not understand that, it's for people mostly with like disabilities or they can't afford to pay for their insurance. Also, people who are just over the poverty line. Now, Obamacare really helped these people. These are the people that are most likely to be kicked off insurance by TrumpCare. And then the big one. Under Obamacare, you could not be denied insurance because you had a pre-existing condition. Now, states have the option of not allowing that. They don't have to, if you have a pre-existing condition, they don't have to give you insurance. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try and explain the whole insurance plan because first thing, most people in the Philippines could care less about what it's about. But mostly what's interesting is just the story itself. This thing is like crazy complicated. But one thing is for sure, that a lot of people are going to be affected by this. And these are the same people that voted for Trump. I suspect, as a lot of people do, that once this bill begins its long drive up the winding, steep, obstacle-ridden road known as the Senate, it will probably crash and burn, just like it did before. Or it will be revised and then go back to Congress. But by then, how many Republicans may have been voted out because of the bill that they tried to force through? In any case, I'm sure at some point they will be showing a repeat of the Republicans having their big celebration with all their high fives and their bro hugs and all the comments from both sides on how they should probably have never done this. And many high school coaches will be saying, see, you should never celebrate until the game is over. Look what happened to the president. This is Eric LeCain here on The Jam. We are just working our way around the world, talking about stories and things, interesting stuff that's happening. You know,